I see all of you filing in. I'm so happy to see all your faces. I am Maya Moore here at More Beauty Love. And today we have a very exciting course. Very, very, very exciting. So, hi, Gita. Hi, Tiffany. Hi, Elise. Hi, Rochelle, and Rainbow, and Blanca, and Lillian, and Yalise, and Christina, and Socorro, and Carolyn. Where are you guys from? Hi, Kim. Hi, Ebony. I love your curls. You look beautiful today. Michigan. St. Paul. All right. Awesome. Virginia, Florida, Pennsylvania. Oh, so a lot of you are on the East Coast. So it's a little bit later out there, right? Dinner time. Texas, Canada. Hey, Tiffany. Fort Lauderdale. I'll be in Florida soon. A couple of weeks. Oh, so good to see you, Honduras. Elise, yes. Thank you. Hey, Kristen, Karina. So good to see all of you here. I'm glad you all are filing in because this is going to be a very exciting class. San Francisco Bay Area, yay, yay, yay. So I don't want to take too much time. I know people are still going to be coming in, and that's totally fine. This will be recorded as well. So I look forward to you all who, if you've missed anything or something kind of went by you, you could always rewatch this. So I'm going to get started. Myself and Ebony, my wonderful co-host. 1 second. And I just like everyone to please put their phones or laptops on mute, just so that we don't have any issues. Actually, I'm going to mute all. There. Okay, so I'm going to pull up my screen. 1 second. All righty. So here we go. All right, so I would like to welcome everyone to Symmetry Secrets, Best Practices for Brow Mapping Your Clients. And we all know how important brow mapping is to the job that we do. So getting more insights and hearing things that you may not have heard or reinforcing things that you've already heard is always necessary. So let me welcome everybody. Thank you all for being here today, tonight, this morning, depending on where you are in the world. And here, I'm sorry, I need to just make a slight adjustment to my screen. Cannot see. Yes, okay. So what we're going to cover today. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm like, this is what's going on. Okay, so today we're going to free you. Okay, that's what today is about. If you didn't know that, it's about us freeing you from any challenges you may have had with the brow mapping process at any point in that process, and show you how to create the most balanced looking brows, despite some of the most challenging brow canvases. Okay, so often we've seen classes or posts or videos on Instagram or whatever social platform you may be on, and the brows are perfect, right? It's like we already knew those brows were going to be great before you even started mapping them. But now here's an opportunity for you to learn what brow mapping is like for us on day-to-day basis. Is like the clients that you see every day. They're not perfect, they're not like supermodels. So this is what we're going to cover today and how to work through those challenges. But you have to stay to the end for our very special gift. All right, so please, as you know, please limit your distractions as much as possible. If you are at work, thank you for being here, even if you are working. But if you want to just still listen, make sure everything is on mute. We understand. We're really happy to have you here. All right, so you are in the right place if you want to learn more about brow anatomy and brow shapes. You struggle when it comes to mapping brows, and you want to be more comfortable mapping symmetric brows. And you want simple best practices on how to deal with various face shapes and complex challenges. Okay, these are some of the things we're going to cover today. If you want to follow an easy mapping process that can deliver consistent, beautiful results. So if this is you, let us show you a better way today. So I want to introduce you to myself. Of course, I'm Maya Moore, and Miss Ebony Fields is here with me as well. And just so you know a little bit about us, if you're not familiar, I have over 25 years. I keep saying 25 years as if I'm not getting older. We're going to stop. We're going to just keep saying 25. Like we're frozen in time at this point. Over 25 years of experience in the beauty industry, 7 years in the PMU industry, trained over 4,000 students worldwide, performed over 5,000 clients and counting. I'm never stopping. And I am the owner of More Beauty Love Studio and Academy, which I own along with my husband, who's right there next to me. And I am an international trainer and speaker. Really, really love and enjoy what I get to do and the lives that I've been able to impact over the last 7 years. And I am also a competitive judge. I judge various PMU competitions throughout the world. Sometimes they're in person, sometimes they're online. It's a really great experience. And I am the World Healed Nano Champion. I have the best healed results on the widest variety of clients. And it's a wonderful title to hold. And I appreciate all the accolades that I've achieved over the last 7 years. But, healed work is what it's all about. But you can't get good healed work if you have bad mapping, right? Well, who's going to focus on your healed work if your mapping is bad? So let's talk about it today. All right, and Miss Ebony. So Miss Ebony is 8-time certified, and she's a senior PMU artist here at More Beauty Love Studio and Academy. She has trained and supported us in our trainings here, and she's trained over hundreds of students. She out the, just starting out was already amazing at nano brows. It was inevitable that one day she'd be teaching it. And so it's been a pleasure to have her support our trainings and also teach her own classes as well. She's also performed hundreds of PMU services on every type of client you can think of. So this is a perfect setting. And if you've ever followed me on Instagram, I had a post about her, sometime last year, and it was like a secret. It was like things you don't want people to know. And the secret was Ebony does my brow mapping. So who else would be here with me today? So she doesn't really have time to do it anymore, but at one point she did all my mapping. It was such a blessing. And then I just come in and do the tattooing. So she's great at what she does, and she knows what she's talking about. She's also received first place for best nano brows in an international nano brow competition. She's amazing. All right, so enough about us. Here's what you're going to need for today's session. So this is a session where we can work together. If you've been a part of any of the Practice with Maya sessions through the MBO Brow Bosses, you know what this session is about. If this is your first time here, thank you for being here. But this is interactive. So if you have a tablet, a writing pencil, you can use that to create the brows. We did send out a brow for demonstration. And then if you have the Procreate app, that will be useful as well, because then you can just do it all on your iPad. Okay, but we did send you the practice face that we're going to build brows on today. So it's going to be exciting and fun, and we're really excited about it. All right, so let's get into it. Let's get into today's session. So we're talking about the importance of brows. All right, and so first I'm going to start off by just talking a little bit about the anatomy. Okay, why do we have eyebrows? That is really important. So the first function, it's a protection. Okay, it protects your eyes from sweat, which is salty and can get into your eyes and cause burning. We don't want that. It also helps to protect your eyes from debris. So it's just one of our defense mechanisms, and it prevents debris from going into our eyes. It also acts as a shield or a visor, a very tiny visor, but the visor nonetheless from the sunlight. So you can see in this profile, you can see how the eyebrows, they protrude out from the eye socket, right? So it's giving a little bit of a veiled effect from direct sunlight that is coming down, like maybe at noontime or something of that nature. All right, there are also other functions that we cover in our extensive balancing brows brow mapping course. So, but this is just a high level view. So that was just some things about the general structure and purpose, the general purpose of eyebrows. And now we're going to talk a little bit about the structure. So Ebony, why don't you take it away?
Yes, ma'am. So when it comes to the brow structure, there are different points of the brow that you have to take into consideration. So the first one is the head of the brow. That is the most important. That's where the start of the brow is. And then you have your arch. And then you also have your tail. So with these 3 points, this determines the length of the brow. So how wide the brow would be. Those are always going to be your vertical points. And then it also, we have our horizontal points. So you have the base of the head, then you have the top of the head, and then you also have the top of the arch. This determines the thickness of the brow. Typically the thickness of the brow is going to be between 0.5 centimeter to 1 centimeter, but that varies depending on the person. Some people have like really thin brows, and then others have really full, thick brows. But generally, this is how you would determine the thickness of the brow. Oh, perfect. There we go. So the thickness of the brow, like I said, the vertical points and the horizontal points will determine how thick the brow is. So from the head to the base, also the arch as well.
Yeah, and so one other key point about that, Ebony, what you're saying is perfect. But when you think about the eyebrow, the head of the brow shouldn't be thinner than the body. Mm-hmm. So like as you're moving through the brow, it shouldn't get thicker and wider.
Yes.
It should get thinner. Like the tail should always be thinner than the head. So the thickness is determined by the head. So from there, it should get smaller. So if you find that your brows are getting wider and you're wondering why they look a little off, imagine like someone looking like they're frowning or like looking sad. That's what happens when the head of the brows is shorter, or it's thinner than
and
the
then
other
it gets
portion.
thicker than
it starts to look like you're questioning life, like because my eyebrows are looking like this. So you want to keep that thickness starting from the head. Mm-hmm. Okay, so next point. Thanks, Ebony. That was awesome.
No problem.
So what do brows mean for your customers? Okay, well, they mean everything. Okay, especially if they have nothing, they mean everything. I mean, people pay us thousands of dollars, hundreds, thousands of dollars because brows mean just that much. And during the pandemic, what happened? Everyone was wearing a mask, so it was really the only thing you saw besides your lashes, right? So it gives you so much personality. So with that, there are some important elements that we need to focus on. So your face shape, it can definitely play a role in how your brows are naturally, on your face, or how you choose to design them. But it is good to consider, if you have let's say if you have a round face, right? If you have a round face, you can see someone here with a round face, you don't want your brows to be really short, with a little arch, like a Ronald McDonald, little arch, and just really short. It's going to make your face look smaller. It's going to make the center of your face go in a little bit more. And then also the roundness in your face is going to be accentuated. So, the goal is to try to make everything look harmonious. And with face shapes, we do talk more extensively about it. We only have an hour, so we can't talk about the fine details, which I'd love to go into, but it is covered in our full length brows and balancing brows course. Like, we go into it extensively. So, but here it's just a sampling. There are other face shapes. There's an octagon, there's a pear, there's inverted triangles and triangles. So there's a lot more to learn. But in my opinion, trends and culture matter even more. If you look at all these brows here, they are all about style and all about personality and what makes that person feel good. And sometimes that's a cultural norm. I think about the Korean really straight brow or the shorter brows. That has nothing to do with if the face is oval or square or heart, or where my bone structure is. It's about achieving that brow because in that culture, it's a youthful look and everybody wants to be young. There's nothing wrong with that. So it's a desirable style, regardless of face shape, regardless of all those other elements. The bleach blonde brows, or the laminated look, or the ultra thin brows, which I'm sorry to say is coming back. I'm really sorry to say it. It's here. I didn't think it would make it. But all these things are trends. And when we're designing for our clients, we want to be mindful of culture and trends, and know where to yield and give in, and then other times to do a hard stop and say, we might not want to move in this direction. Okay, and so I'm inserting this because this is a new mini course that I created, extremely affordable, like less than $25, but where I'm talking about how I transformed my client's eyebrows. And you can see the brows she started with, which are completely overwhelming her face, but this is what she was used to. Again, with culture, this is what she was used to. This is what her family, their brows all look like this, and then trends as well. And she has no hair, so I'm giving her something that's a lot more, appropriate for her face, but still considering what she wants and her cultural norms and the trends that she likes as well. So this ultra new, like very, very new, hot off the press mini course goes in depth into this. So I'm really excited about that. So I just wanted to slip that in there and let you know. New mini course coming. But also, when you're thinking about these different styles and, like, oh, I like the way, Ebony, I like the way your brows look. Okay, I want that brow. Does that brow actually look great on my face? Because they do alter, our expressions. You may be, you may have a happy demeanor in trying to express happiness, but your eyebrows are expressing anger based on how they're aligned on your face and with their bone structure. Or they may be a little too high, set slightly above your brow bone in a way that always makes you look surprised. And people are always like, what's going on? Are you, what did I say? It's just, and you always feel on edge because the brows are just, when you look in the mirror, you don't feel like yourself. So the way we design the brows, it does need to go in harmony with our actual face. Really, really important. All right, so I've talked about this. I'm sorry, I went to the wrong slide. So here's another example of just creating brows that are harmony with the person's face. Ebony, what do you want to say about this brow set?
So for her, before, her brows were too light. It was too light. It just didn't fit. They're really high too. So I gave her a new kind of look. So we deepened them up a little bit, just to match her. I feel like it matches a little bit better. Gave her a spine, kind of gave her a good flow to where it would match her. Because the before is just, it just didn't fit her very well.
Right. I completely understand. And I love what you did. I like that you didn't go, too extreme, like give her something that was completely different, that would make her look like a different person. It's still in her wheelhouse. It's
Mhm.
if these and we do need to reach out to her. We need an intervention.
You
So you
do.
all reach out to her, let her know
Yes.
that Ebony Fields is on the hunt. Send her this phone, screenshot this and send this.
Screenshot this and send it to her. Just
And
be like,
she
I
can
have
have these
somebody that
brows.
can help you.
But yeah, this is a really great example. Okay, so let's moving on to the next one.
Yes.
Okay, so let's look at this starting point, you all. Um, yes, these are eyebrows, and they are very low on her face. Okay, so they're even below, like the top of her arch is even below the bone, her brow bone on the top, on the right, on the left side. You see that? So this, she needed a lot of lift. She looks like she's squinting and concerned all the time, right? So this new set that we've given her has given her a little bit of lift, but it's not dramatic. It's not overly thick, but it does give her eyes some lift when she doesn't look so squinty, right? Yeah. All right. So again, that's why brows are everything. Okay. They mean so much in terms of who we are. So next we're going to talk about symmetry versus asymmetry, which is, we all know the importance of trying to have that symmetric look, but as you will see, some things about us are better when there's asymmetry involved. Even this lady here, even though that right brow is really expressive, it's still a part of her and it makes her look very beautiful. All right, so let's look at this. Okay, here's a challenge. And this is why I say balance is better than perfect symmetry, because this is a supermodel, the original photo in the center, and the left photo, yes, she still looks nice, but her face looks pinched. Her mouth, her nose is smaller, and she has a lot of just vacancy around the rest of her face, the whole full perimeter. It's not full enough, because her face is like kind of moved in closer to the center of her face, and she's still pretty, but the center, the original, to me is a more beautiful look for her. And then you look on the right side, and the right side of the face is wider, so you can see how her facial features have now been stretched out, right? When we put both of those sides together. And, again, neither of the symmetric sides or the mirrored sides look bad. They both look nice. They're pretty girls, but the center, the harmony that we see in the center, it just brings it all together. And that is not a perfectly symmetric face. Now, we deal with this all the time with our clients, right? Because they think that they want perfect symmetry, and you try to measure it out. Okay, it's 3 centimeters over here. I'm gonna put 3 centimeters on that left brow, and then the brow looks like it's all the way at their hairline, and the other one is perfectly placed. And it's because each side of the face is different. One side is shorter, as you see on the left side of her face, and it also has more curvature. And then on the right side, you see it's flatter and longer across. So you have to do things differently for one brow than you have to do for the other, because each side of the face is different. Here's an example of something we deal with all the time, which probably brought a lot of you here, the high-low brow. Just a quick moment of silence for the high-low brow. It can be very challenging. You know, you want to tell people, okay, just get some Botox and come back. But not everybody wants Botox. So in this case, can we give her perfectly symmetric brows? What do you guys say in the chat? Please tell me, what do you think? Can we give this client perfectly symmetric brows? Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Bianca. Thank you. The answer is no, we cannot. Respectfully, we cannot, because the difference is too great. Okay, we would literally be giving her 3 eyebrows because one brow was set extremely low, the other is high, and even to meet in the middle, we'd be losing that lower brow, or so much of it that it would be it wouldn't even matter anymore. And then she'd have to constantly shave down one brow and constantly remove on the bottom on one and on the top on the other. And, a lot of people don't want to do that. Yes, her forehead is asymmetrical. And this is a common thing. This is very common. So, not pushing yourself into a corner, stop saying, I'm going to give you perfect brows. Stop using that kind of verbiage, because your clients, it sticks when they say that. When you say that over and over to them, it's ingrained in their head. She's giving me perfect brows. And then when they look and they're like, oh, those are not perfect brows. Oh my God, what happened to the perfect? And you say balance. And this is why I always stress balance, because I can give you more balance, but I can't give you perfection unless you started with perfection. All right, here's another fine example of a high-low brow, and another very extreme case where it's going to be impossible to make the brows perfect. Okay, now I use my Procreate app and erased parts of her brow, but you can't do that. In real life, I can't use a ruler and Facetune to take off somebody's eyebrows. You have to work within what they have, and you have to say that to your clients ahead of time so they are really comfortable with the end result, and they're not blaming you and saying, you didn't give me what I wanted and I thought it was going to be perfect and it's not, and my husband said it was off. It was off when you came. Your bones are just not the same. So making your clients aware of that, and before you move forward, making sure that they understand. So here's another thing. Your technique can also alter the brows. So I have this here. If you look on the left, it says correct mapping, because her brows are in line with each other. They have the same thickness and placement. However, if you're doing shading, if you shade one brow lighter than the other, if your fade is not consistent on both sides, or if you're doing where it gets gradually lighter, like a vertical ombre where it's lighter on the top. If one brow is faded higher, where there's less fade and it's higher closer to the perimeter, and then the other brow is lower, she's going to feel like she has a high-low brow, because the technique isn't consistent on both sides. So, or even the hair strokes, you may, on your dominant side, it's easy for you to create a nice curved flow, and on the other side, the strokes are straight up, and so it looks off. So the asymmetry could be coming from your design and execution of the technique, and not the mapping. So you have to make sure that all of it works together, the mapping and the actual technique you're performing, and how consistent it is. So sit her up, or him, take a photo if you need to, get a bird's eye view, but make sure that it's not what you see here on the right, where it's lighter, more, lighter, or the strokes are different, but everything looks consistent. All right, so Ebony, let's talk about some of the must-have tools that we love to use here at MBO.
Yes. So we typically use our pre-inked mapping thread. That thread, it is amazing. Like, you can get the finest lines with it. You get straight lines. I absolutely love it. And then on top of that are calipers. Calipers are a must-have. If you do not use calipers, please, please, please get a caliper. This will help you measure out your brows. So even if you have a client and they're like, hey, This one is longer on this end. Have them hold that mirror, show them like, okay, so this one on this side, this here, you can actually show them like, okay, so on this half of your face, like how Maya was talking about, this half you have a little bit more of a curve, whereas this side is a little bit flatter. So on this side, it may appear a little bit longer. You can measure it out, make them see different things like that. And then this amazing Sharpie pencil. Yes, it is literally the best pencil I've used. One, because it's not too creamy to where it like literally fades as soon as you touch it. It doesn't smear off. That's why I like it. And it's a little bit more firm. So you're able to get really nice, clean lines with it. It is probably the best that we have tried. And we've tried a lot of pencils, a lot of products. And these are probably like our go-to products that we use for mapping.
Yeah, I mean, and there are tons of pencils that come out. We try a lot of the newer ones that come out. And we've just found that we always end up going back to the Sharpie. It's really, really consistent. So I really do love it. Now, one new addition that we didn't add on here, and I was going to say, like, oh, we just not forget. I mean, we can just leave it out, but I'll just say it, even though it's not on there, is the white mapping string. So this one is black, but we also love the white, especially for clients who are concerned about their brows looking too dark. When you use the black mapping string, your blonde clients, even your alopecia clients, or if you're really doing a lot of hair strokes and you don't want the black to be in the way, that white mapping string is awesome because it's more contrasting and it's not dark, so it doesn't make people feel uncomfortable. So yeah, that's why I absolutely love the white.
You
Okay,
make me a believer of that white mapping string,
I'm
especially for
telling
my
you.
alopecia clients. That is a go-to.
Yes, absolutely. It's a huge favorite of ours here. So these are our tools. And now that we've talked about our tools, we've talked about asymmetry, we've shown you different faces, we've told you what brows what they're made for, and different things that will affect design. Let's actually get into practicing. Okay, let's actually start practicing. So what we're going to do is show a video of us mapping a face. Ebony is going to go through this step by step. Okie doke. So here it is. Oh, it's fast. Okay, so the first line that you're going to create is
your center line.
So I feel like it's going
right
faster than it's supposed to go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, so your first line is going to be your center line. So directly in the center of the face, sometimes your client it may be lopsided, things like that. You can either go, there's a couple points. So you can go by the Cupid's bow, or you can go in the, what's this? Widow's peak. There you go. Yes, I was like, it's one or the other. Okay, so your widow's peak or the Cupid's bow. That's going to be your center point. Then your next line would be, we'll do our vertical lines first. So your next one would be the head of the brow. So from this point, so there's a couple different ways you can do this. So for this point, you can do from the inner corner of the nostrils here, or if they have more of like a very narrow nose, sometimes you can go from the outer corner of the nostrils. So it's kind of different for everybody, but generally it'll be around that area for the inner corner of the nose.
Yes, and I would like to add to what you're saying, something that I like to do with my clients, because sometimes, you can get caught up, oh, they have on a mask. Sometimes in California, people are still wearing masks, like, oh, I can't see their nose. And so how am I going to find it? I'll literally just ask them, unless they have alopecia and they have no brow, I'll ask them, do you feel in your brows? And when you fill them in, If they say, yes, I feel my brows, and I ask them, do you use where your hair starts, or do you bring it in closer to the center a little bit? And if they say, I bring it in closer to the center, then I'll go slightly outside of where their hair is. If they say, no, I leave my hair as is, then I'll put the line directly on top of where the hair is. It makes it easier. Again, we're just creating a template because they're going to give us their feedback once you create the shape anyway. So it's just creating something that looks nice that they can then review.
Yes.
All right, so we got our 2 lines.
So your next one would be the arch line. So your arch, so same point. So it can either be from the inner corner of the nostril or the outer corner through the iris, or the outer corner of the iris. So like I said, it's different for everybody, but generally for this client, we went from the inner corner of the nostril here through the iris, and that determined where her arch was. If you wanted to go, if let's say her brow or your client's brow is a little bit closer in or a little bit further out, you would adjust those points based on where their natural brow is. And then also those questions that Maya asked when they draw on their brows, do they make different things? So like when my clients come in, typically I'll ask them for photos of how they typically draw in their brows, if they draw in their brows, just so I can get an idea of what they like. And then that'll kind of I'll use that as a guide. Granted, sometimes it's not always the best brow, but then you can kind of get an idea of different shapes, or if they have photos of brows that they do like. That way you can kind of mimic what they have. And then the very last vertical line would be the tail. So that would be from the outer corner of the nostril and the outer corner of the lash line, and that'll determine how far out you would have your tail to be. So now we have your 3 horizontal lines. So like we were talking about earlier, so you have the base of the head, then you have the top of the head, and then you also have the top of the arch. So typically when you are brow mapping, you always want to start with the higher brow. You never want to lower your higher brow. Unless it's something that's like super, super dramatic, like we just seen with the asymmetry. Then you can kind of like balance it out and kind of lower it a little bit just to balance them out. But you don't want to have it like way up here and then bring it all the way down to where their eyelid is. You don't want to do that. You still want it to look like a very natural balance. So once you determine your higher brow, then you would match that as far as where the arch is. Sorry, you can't see my arch, but you would match where the arch is here. So for me, my higher brow is this one. So when I got my brows done, we brought this one up to match it and balance it out. So once we do that, we have all of our lines, we have all of our vertical lines and our horizontal lines. So now we're about to compose our brows. So now we have all of our points. So starting from the head of the brow, we would start to connect those points. So from the head to the arch, and then from the arch to the tail, and then this will give you your brow there. And then you'll see in the video, you would connect all of those points. Another good tip that it's not in this video, and I wish I would have done it before, is to determine as far as like your tails. What you could do, another line would be from the tail to the arch and bring it forward to where it would cross on your center line. That is another really good tip, just so you know where your tail is and it crosses and it's at the exact same point. So that's another good tip that we can add for you, and it may be in a good little bonus for you too.
Yeah, it's gonna definitely be in the bonuses.
Yes. So
All
once
right.
you have that, then you'll get a brow, and then you'll match it on the other side. Typically, when I map my clients, I always start with one brow and then I move to the next one. So like Maya said, they'll tell you exactly what they like, and they'll tell you what they want to change too. So sometimes it's hard if you do both brows at the same time. They'll be like, oh, I like this one, but I don't like this one. And then you have to figure out what you did differently. Whereas in your mind, you're like, oh, I thought they were exactly the same. So then you're going back and forth trying to figure it out. Whereas with this, it's a little bit easier starting with one and then just matching it on the other side once they approve it.
All right, I think that's it. Thank you, Ebony. So does anyone have any questions here? Let me take a look before we has anyone started working through the mapping exercise? And if you have any questions, you can come off mute and or maybe I need to turn off the mute all, but you can come off and ask your question. I did see something in here, and people were asking, or someone asked about the red and the yellow Sharpie. Now, I've never used the yellow, I've used the red, and I don't really like it for the brow shape as much as I like it for the hair strokes. Or if I was trying to, you know, make a demarcation line for where I was going to like start fading the brow with a like my powdering technique or something, or like the spine, if I wanted to pop the spine out. But the reason I don't like it for mapping is because red is just really, it's a really bold color. And if the red pencil, in my opinion, it can get smudgy when you're wiping, like it leaves a residue, even if you try to, you know, wipe the line off clean. Sometimes you can still see a haze of that red in there. And if I'm mapping the client, it would be very confusing. I'd rather use the black or, again, the white. Now, the white pencils are also challenging because the formulation of the white pencil, it doesn't glide as well as the red or the black. Sharpie, please work on that. But I do love the concept of the white. I don't altogether like the white pencils yet. Maybe there's one out there. I just haven't tried it. If you all know of one, put it in the chat. You know, spread the good news, because we're always looking for something better. But the Sharpie brand, it's a miss for me. And then, but you can use the red to map. It's totally up to you if you want to try it. But for me, I've tried it and it was a little bit smudgy with red residue everywhere. And then Karina, you said you're looking for the black mapping string on our shop. So what we'll do is we'll have a link added so that you can in the chat so that you can get that link for you. You can find those. It actually comes in a pack.
Yes, I just
Great. You just put it in there. Perfect.
So it comes in a pack of 3.
Okay, great. Let's see. Forgive me for not wanting to be a PMU artist. I want to learn mapping for tinting using hybrid tints and shapes for brow lamination. I want to be a brow expert, and that is totally fine. Yes, no, it's totally, you don't have to be a PMU artist to appreciate brow mapping, because whether you're doing waxing, threading, or lamination, to your point, tinting, all of that, you still need to understand bone structure and working in harmony and trends, asymmetry, how to bring the brows into more balance, and understanding customer demand and how to work through all the things that customers are going to ask you or say, or their demands. So it's totally fine if you don't want to be a PMU artist. This is relevant across the board. I'm glad you said that. You said, what's the name of the app we're using? It is called Procreate. You want to put the name in the chat, Ed? It's called Procreate, and it's a love of ours. And did you do the symmetry feature where it mirrors on the other side?
I did it for the final brow. I'm still trying to work through the app completely.
Okay, so there
It's
is this
amazing.
really great feature within Procreate that allows you to draw a line on one side, and it automatically draws the line on the other brow or the other side of the face, or whatever you're working on. It'll mirror that same line on the other side for you, so it makes everything 10 times easier. However, if the face is not symmetric, the line will be here, the brow will be here, and the other one will be up here. It's crazy. So I can never use it because I never work on clients with symmetric faces. So it's harder it's like you can use it on that right client, that one. I haven't found that one yet. I might have to manipulate the face, push that eye up a little bit, and then do it. But otherwise,
do a little eraser or something.
Yes, it just hasn't worked for me at this point, because it's like one eyebrow will be like at the temple. I'm like, okay, this is a fail. So that's been a challenge. But Procreate is amazing for practicing any technique, even for shading and learning how to build shading, learning how to build your brows, putting faces on the app like you see here, and then maybe building hair strokes with their hair pattern, or again manipulating their brow shape to be a little bit more flattering for their face. So it has many functions. It's a great purchase. All right, let me see some of these other questions. I'd love to know more about mapping mature skin that moves a lot. So there is, in our Balancing Brows course, there is an example of someone who has those expressive eyebrows, and every time you touch their face or every time they open their brows, one brow rises, and then just when you get that brow perfect, then the other brow starts flexing, and it's like, okay, this is going to be a never-ending process. So we definitely understand how challenging those particular brows can be. What I do recommend is that you come to a middle ground with those clients, because you're never going to be able to change their face. You know, they're never going to stop having eyebrows that have conversations with each other. How you doing? I'm good. It's like they're talking back and forth. And so that's never going to change. So unless they're like, oh, I'm going to be getting Botox, you know, and if they are, then have them come back when they have it. So it makes your job a lot easier. But otherwise, you have to come to a middle ground and design their brows with their eyes open and not closed, sitting them up and not laying them down, so that you can really see what you're working with.
Another tip too, if they have really expressive brows, I'll ask them questions to keep them talking while I map them, just so I can work around it. So I'm not just like, okay, I want you to relax, because they're not going to be conscious of that every single day. So you kind of have to work with it.
Yes. Okay, so you're talking about being a little bit extreme or doing something that you may not normally do. Here's something that I've learned to do with people who have very expressive brows, or maybe even all the while I'm mapping them. And even when they open their eyes, their brows don't move. But the second they look in the mirror, their brows start flexing, because they're kind of serving face. And they don't even realize they're doing it. But once they look in the mirror, then it's like, I have them look in the mirror, like a wall mirror, and then I stand behind them, and then I do the horizontal lines. I'll do the line for the height of the brow, but I'm coming around their body. So I'm like standing behind them. I'll put the mapping string around their face, and then I'm mapping them from behind just to get my vertical line, so I know where everything is, like when they're actually looking in the mirror. And of course, when you look in the mirror, that's the most important thing, right? Is what you see. So I ask people that question. All right, so I understand your brows are flexing, and when the brows shift every time I have you look in the mirror, I will take a photo of them with their eyes closed, it's symmetrical. I'll take a photo with their eyes open, it's symmetrical. And then all of a sudden, when they look in the mirror, then it's like Zoolander eyebrows. If you don't know about Zoolander, just Google it. But then I'll take a picture of that too, so they understand this is not something that I can really control. This has gone beyond my ability as an artist. And this is something that's happening more so with your muscles. So I asked them, okay, I can make this correction, but is it more important to you what other people see when they look at you? Or is it more important to you for you to like what you see when you look in the mirror? And usually they say, when I look in the mirror. So I say that, okay, so I'm going to stand behind you while you're looking in the mirror and try to map out your brows. And they're usually very happy. But what I do tell them as a disclaimer, do not tell me, please, ma'am, or Mr. whomever, do not say later, at a later time, my husband says my brows are off. Remember, that was the question, and have them sign waivers and even have them say it in person, like have them say it on camera, get their approval, because people have amnesia when it comes time for when other people will start to say, but your brows are off, but your brows are off, because they will be off in this case. because everyone else is going to see something differently than what you see. So I've had a handful of cases where I had to do something like that. I've never had them message me back and say, someone said my brows look weird. That never happens. But I just like to put that in there as a disclaimer. Other people may not see what you see when you look in the mirror. It's going to be different. If that makes sense, I hope that makes sense. So you asked, is Procreate compatible with the Android? I don't know. I only know that it's an app for the iPad. I'm pretty sure there's a compatible format for an Android.
Someone said it's called Sketchbook is similar.
Thank you, Rainbow. Yeah, it's called Sketchbook. That's a great little plug. I didn't know about that. Okay, so you talked about Princess asking about deep wrinkles. So deep wrinkles and when they droop. So I don't think that, to me, deep wrinkles are too challenging. I think it's going to be important that you really follow your perimeter line that you set, because what's going to happen is a deep wrinkle, right? So the surface is not even. So when you stretch the skin, that line might shift, right? Because the wrinkles are so deep, but you cannot focus on any of that. You need to hug right up against the line. If you mapped it perfectly, or to the liking of yourself and your client, and they approved it, just when they lay down, it may look different. And that's happened. Have you ever had that happen where you're working on a client, and then as you're like doing their outline or anything, building out their hair strokes or whatever, all of a sudden you look at the brow, you're like, this looks off. This is not good. And you try to adjust it while you're working on it. And then you sit them up and it's like, you messed their brow up. And it's like, uh-oh, that last stroke I added was terrible. Oh no, that line, I messed it up. Don't do that. When you mapped them, it was perfect. It was approved by you and your guests. So if you make any adjustments at that point, they are not approved. So just trust your design and really hug against the lines that you create, and make sure the lines, the perimeter, any type of line that you create is very thin and very precise and not thick and smudged all over the place, because that will affect, where you build your outline for your powder brows, or where you build your hair stroke, like how far up or how low your stroke is going to be, how short or long. So you want to make sure that you're really accurate in that way. But Ev, you want to say anything about that?
For me, like you were saying, so I think the main thing is once they approve it, they give that thumbs up, don't change it. Don't change it. Because then after that, like you said, everything else is not approved. So they didn't ask for that. So I would say make sure, like when you're mapping them, if you do map them laying down, always sit them up when you are done doing it laying down. Because everything changes with gravity. So if you don't want to map them sitting up, lay them down, sit them back up, but make sure you sit them back up before you start that service, because you may need to make some adjustments. Maybe that left brow is a lot higher than the right, and then laying down, they're all even. So you have to balance it out. So it's different things like that, especially with mature skin, a lot changes. So you want to make sure, typically with my mature clients, I do map them sitting up. And then even when I'm having that consultation, I'm analyzing their brows as they're talking, see if their brows move, see how their expressions are. So then that way, even if I can get my highest point while they're sitting up, do that, and then have them laying down. Because with mature clients, you don't want to have them coming up and down, up and down, up and down, because that can get uncomfortable from time to time.
Yeah.
So even if you can just start with that highest point, get all of your horizontal lines while they're sitting up, and then you can have them lean back just to make sure that they're comfortable. You just want to make sure that you always sit them up before you start. I cannot emphasize that enough, because I've been on the opposite end and it is not good. So make sure you always sit them up before.
All right, we're going to take one more question, and we're going to answer these questions. We're not going to leave you all hanging because these are some really, really good questions, very important. A lot of times we don't have an opportunity to ask these, so I definitely want to address them. I want to get through a little bit more of the presentation. We're almost done, but I am going to be answering these kind of as we go along. So I'll just say one more, and then the others I'm going to address shortly. Okay, we're still going to get to them because these are really good questions, so stay tight, hang tight, everybody, because these are really good. But about the waivers, so Rainbow, you asked if when they sign waivers, so we do have them sign their console forms through DocuSign. If you have something paper, you can have them sign there. However, if for some reason they try to take you to court, a signature is not enough to really help you win your case. So we like to do video and audio. And I don't have to do, not audio, video and photos. And in our photos, we have them do a thumbs up. Now, I don't do a thumbs up for every single client, but if there's a client that took me an hour to map, or you see I'm doing all this stuff, I'm going behind them, and it's just been a very long time, or they're very, very particular. They want everything like perfect to the T, and they're squinting and doing all this stuff in the mirror. And you're like, anytime somebody starts squinting, it gives me PTSD. I'm like, oh my God, it's one of those clients. It's one of those clients. They're squinting. They're over there squinting. They're going like this and frowning because they want to make sure that the angle is right, even when they frown. So if I'm getting any of those clients, I will make sure to take a photo, and I'll make sure to get them on camera. Say, are you happy with your brows? Are you excited for the next step? Woo! And they're like, yes, I'm so excited. And I'll have them do a thumbs up. I don't make it a long, drawn out process. Ma'am, this is for legal purposes so that we know that this is the shape that you agreed to. None of that. It's a fun experience, so I want to keep it lighthearted, but it is for records in case someone says, oh, this is not what I asked for. I don't look like myself anymore, and this is exactly what you asked for. So I just want to make sure that I'm covered. And then if for some reason, it's never happened, but if I was taken to court or some type of insurance claim or something like that, I have physical proof more than just the signature, because they can say, I didn't sign that. No, we have you on camera. That's not my arm putting that thumb up. That's not me. My nails don't look like that. That's you, and those are your words, and that's your face. So it's just a check and a balance, and for us personally. So you could do that, or you could just have them sign, but I would prefer photos and videos and thumbs. Okay, so I am going to move on and still address these questions, okay? But I do want to tell you about some of the exciting things we have coming up. So I'm just going to minimize briefly. Okay, so everyone here, please imagine having the confidence to effectively brow map any client, regardless of their facial canvas, and provide them with customized results that you and your client are both happy with. Because when clients come to me, I don't think about like, oh my God, I can't do it. Oh my God. If anything, it's something that's going on with them and they can't decide. They're showing me like 15 different brows, like, oh, I like her brow. Oh, no, I like her brow. But it has nothing to do with me. It's them being indecisive. I don't have those issues. It's not because I've been in the industry for several years. It's just because I really understand how all of this works. It doesn't mean I get my brows done in 5 minutes. I'm not promising you that, because whoever is promising you that, they're not taking on these more challenging cases, because these are not 5-minute cases. I'm just being honest, okay? We all know. So, but you will, whatever a length of time it takes you, that the results that you give them are going to be what's best for them, what's best for their face, and you have ways to troubleshoot. This is what we want to offer you today. And so I hope you can see how with the knowledge that we've presented to you and shared and all the mapping applications that we've provided you, that you can confidently conquer any fear and challenge, any fear and challenge that comes with brow mapping the face. And so with that being said, I do really want to present to you our Balancing Brows online course. And I don't know if you've heard of it. We don't really talk about the great things that we do a lot of the time, but this course is very in-depth. And we're always adding to the information that's in there. And as of now, it goes over in-depth brow structure. And I feel like a lot of people don't know enough about eyebrows. You know about a shape, a particular shape and style, and cookie cutter brows. And we're not cookie cutters. And if you learn to customize designs more for your clients, you will have a broader range of clientele. And in-depth details about how to work with asymmetric brows, brows that are not perfect, brows that are expressive, etc. You'll have easy brow mapping steps for success to reduce your time and stress. Okay, we'll have 3 full-length brow demonstrations with challenging brow cases. Okay, no one has perfect brows in any of these demonstrations, and it took work to get them to a look of harmony. One person doesn't have a tail, one person has a high-low, there's another case. So there's all kinds of scenarios that we're presenting that are real life scenarios. And of course, there's much more. And you'll get this, which is normally $249, but today you will get this for $49.95, a price that we've never offered before. And in addition to this online